Welcome to the Hard Money Show, where we talk about real estate, home loans, and media. It is a great day when we can jump on the podcast and we can talk about preparing for the next year. Now, I know a lot of you probably, maybe, hopefully, I'm not really sure. Do you guys still do your New Year's resolutions? Is that still a thing? I don't know. I know that some people hate them. They just think they're cliche. Nobody follows through on them. And I know some people like them. And I think there's maybe a very small percentage of people that actually take advantage of them. And they actually find success by having a resolution. I think I fall more in the categorizations that I don't ever do them. I don't really make resolutions because I'm the type of person that throughout the year, I set goals for myself and I, set expectations for myself, to find success, to find happiness. And, it doesn't really matter when the year is, in the middle of the year, the end of the year, the start of the year, it doesn't matter to me. And I've always kind of been like this. And let me give you an example, from the fitness world. Mondays have always been terrible days to go to the gym. And what I mean by that is that it is full. So if you're an avid gym goer, well, you'll see a big influx of people into the gym on Mondays. And then that a little bit on Tuesdays, and then it starts to fade out and you see nobody there really Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. Now, I will say that with the growth of social media and the growth of kind of the fitness industry, it's a little more packed now, but the same kind of trend. If you go to the gym enough, you'll see this. Mondays are always really packed, because people have decided that over the weekend that they were going to cheat and party and do by cheat on their diets or whatever. And they're going to start their fitness journey on Monday. And you see that same thing happen at the beginning of January. And there's statistics about people who do this, and they end up fading out, right? And you see people, they Monday, Tuesday, and it goes, and then maybe they restart on that Monday or whatever it is, but it's commonplace. I've been in the fitness industry for a really long time. I was an avid gym goer when I was in high school. I worked out twice a day when I was in high school. So, typically about 4 hours a day, 11 times a week. And so I really started to notice stuff like this. And so the reason I bring this up is I've never been that type of person. I'm not a start on Monday type of person. I'm a start right now type of person, or a start tonight type of person, or I'm just, whatever it is. And so it's interesting to really kind of think about this New Year's resolution thing that happens. And I start to think about as where I'm going to go into next year, and as I'm preparing my business plan, and as I'm working with my realtor partners, I'm wondering, what is everybody else doing? How are they getting prepared? What do they need to motivate themselves? And I have to understand that being in a somewhat coaching capacity, managerial capacity, or admin capacity, that those skill sets are a little bit different than being in an individual capacity. And I learned this a lot when, I had my business and the gym and working with personal trainers. Personal trainers, bless them, are one of the hardest working people, that the successful ones that I've met, right? They have to stay fit from themselves. They have to be extremely knowledgeable to do well. They have to know how to do marketing. They have to know how to do sales, and they have to know how to do physical, or they have to learn how to actually train people and be successful at that. But the one thing I did notice, because we hired all independent contractors, we didn't have like employees at our gym, was they are all extremely selfish, right? They because their entire lives revolve around building their own business, being successful for themselves, putting themselves forward. They wake up early, they eat right? I mean, I'm not saying selfish in a bad way. Being selfish doesn't always have to be bad. What I will say, that there's a specific way you need to learn to work with them. And I know I had a little bit of difficult time navigating that, But what I have decided, and especially from working with so many volunteers that are, in different, it's interesting working with the volunteers because they're a volunteer to you, which kind of makes them all the same. But in reality, they all have professions and lives that they live. And some of them are extremely high up people that in their professions. And you kind of don't get to learn that for a while. And not to say that you should treat somebody better because they're in a certain profession. But I will say that, typically the higher up they are, the more you kind of need to recognize a little how more independent they are, or it's a little bit of a difficult transition, right? And so I've learned how to work with a lot of different people, and I do spend a lot of time wondering the different people that I work with, understanding their personalities, and how do I help them be successful next year without putting my thing on them, right? Without being like, this is the way you have to do it to be successful. I've found a way to be successful myself. So far, it's worked pretty well. But what I'm saying is that's part of what I'm planning for next year. And I sit and I wonder a little bit, and I have a few conversations, but it's just interesting, right? Because I have some people where they're really motivated, and they're the type of people who will send you text to make sure that you get something done, not understanding that you always do it, so you don't need those texts, but that's just their personality, right? And there's other people that will never follow up at all because they just think that you're gonna do it, right? And maybe they should be following up, and maybe the other person should take a little bit, stand back. And so, I think, and I know that a lot of you guys are considering how are you going to find success next year, right? And maybe this is on the real estate side, the loan side, or even, as a consumer. And I wanted to kind of give some of the things that I do, some of the ways that I think that have built success for me. And I'm hoping that, you guys will find them interesting. I hope that you maybe will apply some of them to your lives. But I think that it's important to understand that, at least for me, that I'm not trying to make you do something. All I'm doing is I'm trying to give you the tools to be successful. It's up to you to make that decision on whether or not you're going to want to use those tools. Now, I don't intend to give out tools that I don't think will work. So I think that's an important distinction there. If I'm spending the time telling you, then I think that maybe you should pay attention, but ultimately that's up to you. So let's talk about some of the things that I do, some of my goals for next year. I have a lot of things going on, both personally and professionally. And so I'm trying to find a way to marry that. And probably for the better part of 10 years, I've been trying to develop my own ethos, my own kind of philosophy of what is important in life, and how do I want to, find that balance in my life, I guess, that will allow me to continue to be successful. Because I will say that, for the most part, outside of my family, my wife and my, friends and things like that, probably one of the top 3 most important things to me is being successful. It's just the way that I am. It's the way that I've been built. It's the way that I've trained myself to be for an extremely long time. And so, that comes with some setbacks sometimes, and I've been trying to find a way to monitor that. And so I have this theory right now, and I'm not going to get into it too much because I haven't fully developed it, but it's about finding balance and finding a way to break up your life and make things work. It's funny, there's this movie called About a Boy, and it's a Hugh Grant movie. It's a really good movie if you haven't seen it. And he talks about breaking up his life into units, and a unit is made up of 30 minutes. And he says that any given activity shouldn't take more. I think he said more than 2 units. So like getting your haircut is, 1 unit, and, watching a TV show is 1 unit, and whatever. And so I always thought that was really interesting, and it captured kind of this idea in my head with how do I break up my life? How do I break up my days? I know that some people do about 8 hours. So 8 hours, and then another 8 hours is 16, another 8 hours is 24. So 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, 8 hours of family, or 8 hours of activities, or whatever that is, right? So I can't tell you how to break up your day because it really depends on what you're, what you're looking to achieve and really the availability you have. But I will say that I think giving some consideration to this idea of how does your day function, where can you find time to make yourself successful is extremely important. A lot of times it can feel like I don't have the time to do that. And the truth is you do have the time. You just need to prioritize things, right? And so there's this idea that I'm playing around with that kind of goes along with this, with that in order to find success, there's only two things that'll ever hold you back. One is a physical inability, and the other one is a mental inability. And what I mean by that is you need to understand that some people are physically unable to do certain things. And I've had this experience myself over the last 3 years. I've been dealing with some health problems and finally found out that I have rheumatoid arthritis, and that's what's been affecting me. And it's made me somewhat immobile at times and made it difficult for me to do things that I want. And it's been a blessing in the way that, when you're younger and you're extremely athletic and you don't have any impairments and things like that, you really don't fully understand how people can't just get up and do stuff. And especially like you can understand like if somebody broke their leg or doesn't have lost a leg or, whatever, they're blind and those sort of things. You're like, okay, at face value, but you don't really understand that like what's going on in the body, have an immuno disease or something else like that. And so age has given me perspective. And so I really do believe that for some people, you have some sort of physical impairment that maybe just makes it very difficult for you to achieve what you want to achieve. And I say keep fighting for what you want to achieve, but maybe understand that you might have to navigate in a different direction. You might have to pivot. The other one, a mental impairment, right? And this I think is pretty straightforward in the way that, if you have some sort of mental health issue or you have some sort of learning disability and things like that, that one is kind of face value. But there's a level within this, and it has to do with you training yourself mentally to be better. And what I mean by this is people that are mentally lazy, people that can't do follow through, people who can't meet a schedule or show up on time or things like this. These are mental impairments that you've created on yourself or you've allowed to develop in your skill sets that have made it extremely difficult for you to be successful. And these are the sort of things that you need to be focusing on. So if you don't have this physical, impairment and you don't have these face value impairments, then what you're left with is really what can you start to teach yourself to build better habits to be successful. And so I think that this is a really good place to start, with what we're just talking about. And this, if you can really work on these two things, I think you're going to put yourself in a really good place. Now, there's something to be said about putting pen to paper. Now, that could just be on your iPad or your computer, but, or actual pen to paper. But ultimately, putting something down on paper makes it a little more tangible and it gives you something to go back and look at, right? Right now, I do a lot of stuff on notes on my iPhone. And I'm doing a thing right now called Hard 30. What am I calling it? I'm calling it Hard 23 because we're going into 2023. And essentially, it was something that I heard somebody say they were doing on TikTok for 2022. They're doing Hard 22. So they do 22 hard things that for them in the year of 2022. And I thought, oh, that's a really cool way to challenge yourself. And so I decided to do that for myself as well. And so right now I'm working through the things that I want to do, the 23 difficult things for me that I want to overcome next year, to build confidence for myself, to find ways to be successful and to set tangible goals for myself. And maybe even a little bit some untangible goals that I want to reach for. And so Not to say that you need to do something like that, but I do think in the way where you're kind of making New Year's resolutions, it's the same kind of idea, to put pen to paper and say, this is what I want to achieve. This is what I want to do. Now keep in mind, I am a firm believer of leading indicators. So these are not leading indicators. If you lay out and say like, I want to lose 100 pounds, that's great. That's great. You want to lose 100 pounds, but a leading indicator would be like, I want to work out. I want to lift weights 3 times a week, and I want to do cardio 2 times a week. And I want to keep my calories at 2,500, and I want to keep my macros of this, because when you do these things, they're called these leading indicators that put you in a position to achieve that last one, right? To achieve that weight loss. Because if you don't have the things that are actually going to help you achieve that goal, well, you're going to be in a you're going to find it extremely difficult to find success in that. And so you need to really kind of think of those things that are going to make you successful. And it's great to have those goals like, I want to make $1 million. I want to lose 100 pounds or whatever it is. But really, why don't you take a step back and say, okay, what are the things that can do that? And, I want to make $1 million. I'm going to make 100 phone calls a day, or I'm going to door knock, 5 hours a week. I'm going to go to 4 networking events a month. All right. And those sort of things, right? Lay those things out for yourself, but have these larger goals in mind. So definitely write some stuff down, get yourself going. Now, some people are really good at calendaring and like putting stuff down for like, this is what I'm going to do next year and things like that, creating to-do lists, and other people are not. I've always had a really difficult time with like really calendaring and getting things kind of laid out in that way. I just kind of keep them internally and I just kind of bring them in and focus. But I think I'm going to try to do that a little bit more next year, because I do have a couple, like I want to start learning a new language, and I've wanted to do that for years and I've always put it off. And that's kind of one of the things that I want to do. I have some education that I want to get done. I have some health goals that I want to meet. I have some family goals that I want to meet. Obviously for the podcast, I have some really, strong goals that I want for this. And I feel like calendaring with how many I have, could be a really good thing for me. And so I think I'm going to make that one of my hard 23 goals, is to calendar stuff and do it for a year and just see how that feels for me, and really put the effort into trying to make that successful. But ultimately, I think this all really comes back to one thing, is I know I'm kind of rambling on and I'm throwing things out here and there. And it's just because this is really a topic that I could probably talk on with somebody for 3 or 4 hours, because I'm extremely passionate about chasing your goals and how to lay that out and how to find success. But ultimately, it really comes down to, we're in December, we're getting ready to end the year. How are you prepping for Q1 and Q2 and Q3 and Q4? And what are your goals? And are they achievable goals? And have you laid out the exact way that you're going to do it? And this doesn't, like I said, this doesn't just have to be for realtors and loan officers who are setting out business plans, but even for consumers with, how can I find success in this market? How can I win the market? And doing stuff like that. And so I just think that it's an extremely important time in December, where a lot of people start to take a step back and they start to relax a little bit and they start to decompress from the difficulties of the year. I think this is the time that you need to start putting your foot on the gas a little bit and start prepping yourself. And that way, once, as we get a little bit closer to that new year and new year hits, we're at 100%. We're ready to go day one. And I think what a lot of people do is they go, we're at the beginning of December, they're letting their foot off the gas. And then we get to Christmas and they are off the gas, Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate during this time, they have their foot completely off the gas. A lot of people, and they keep it somewhat off the gas going into New Year's. And then it takes them 2, 3, 4 weeks to get their foot back on the gas, because they're not prepared for next year. And that's one way to do it. But I think it would be a lot better if you were prepared going into New Year, because I'll tell you what, I'm trying to get my team prepared. I'm trying to get my partners prepared. I know that as a brokerage that I work with, we're getting prepared and I'm getting prepared. And, I'm going to have a lot going into next year. And do you really want to be competing against me or people like me who are knowledgeable, who have been paying attention to the market, who understand what to do, who have all their marketing material ready, who have their team events prepared, that have their networking ready to go, that have all of this stuff in place, and you're kind of limping into 2023, right? And I'm sorry to say, but there's a lot of people, and it's not just me, there's a lot of people, especially that have been on this podcast, that are going to be doing that very thing of being prepared for next year. And so I urge everybody, take it seriously this year. Don't wait till January 1st. Start to prepare now in 2023. Find what works for you. Challenge yourself a little bit, but really find tangible things that you can set your goals to, and do that. And here's the thing. If you are bad at this, or you want some help, or you just want to have an open dialogue about it, shoot me a DM. We'll text about it. Maybe we can even jump on a Zoom and we can talk about it a little bit, right? Set some goals, right? Be prepared. Like, these are great things to have ready for your life. And so I urge you to do that. Now, if you so choose not to do that because you absolutely need some of a break this December, I respect that. I understand being burnt out and feeling like this time of the year is a good time to relax. I respect that. Just understand your life's probably going to be a little bit harder going into 2023, and that's okay if you're prepared for that. So is life. Everybody has their own path. This is just me trying to bring value to you guys, and hopefully it was this stream of consciousness discussion that I'm having with myself makes sense and everybody feels okay about it. I'm excited for next year, and the podcast format is going to be changing a little bit. And so I want to make it a little more engaging. I want to bring a little more value. I want our guests to really kind of offer some insights. And so keep an eye out for that. But this is going to be, a good way to end this year. And again, if you guys have any questions, or if you have somebody you think that should be on the podcast because they're doing a great job in the real estate world, and that doesn't just have to be real estate, doesn't just have to be loans. It could be a photographer, videographer, a gardener, a pool person, a plumber, a roofer, anybody that's attached in some way to real estate. I want to get on this podcast. I want to have a conversation with them, and I want to help people understand these different industries, because ultimately that's all part of the real estate life. And you own a home, you have to start engaging with all these different businesses that you maybe never have in your entire life. And I want people to understand the responsibility, and I want them to understand the commitment that they've made, and I want them to feel confident about that. And I want realtors and loan officers to understand what they're putting their clients into, right? I want them to respect that there is a significant jump from renting, a lot of responsibilities that you don't have. And when you do own, those responsibilities fall solely on you. And that can be a really tough thing to navigate. And sure, it's not the responsibility of the realtor to have that sort of compassion for their clients, but I do. And I would like it if other realtors did, or if at least they were knowledgeable enough to be able to provide that for them. So, definitely something to think about. I hope you guys all have a great rest of the year. Again, if you have anybody, send them my way. If you want to chat, send me a DM. Follow the Instagram, The Hard Money Show. I almost have 100 posts up, so I'm pretty excited about that. And we will talk soon. You guys have a great one, and bless.